Donald Trump just walked out of his highly anticipated meeting with Vladimir Putin, and what happened next is nothing short of shocking. Instead of leaving with the so-called 24-hour peace plan he's bragged about for years, Trump stumbled out with a bombshell that has left allies stunned, critics outraged, and even some of his own supporters questioning his strength. This wasn't the victory photo op Trump promised. It was a moment of humiliation that the world is still trying to process. And today, we're breaking down exactly how it all unraveled. For years, Donald Trump has bragged that if he were back in charge, he could end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. It was one of his loudest talking points on the campaign trail, a promise designed to sound bold, tough, and simple. But when he finally sat down with Vladimir Putin, that promise didn't just collapse, it blew up in his face. Putin reportedly came to the table with his own list of demands, and instead of negotiating from a position of power, Trump looked cornered. He had no concrete plan, no strategy, and no leverage. What was supposed to be his moment of strength turned into a glaring reminder that his 24-hour peace was never more than a soundbite. And this is where the cracks really started to show, because what Putin wanted wasn't peace at all. Once the cameras were off and the private talks began, Putin wasted no time laying his cards on the table. And let's be clear, these weren't the kind of concessions any U.S. president could spin as a win. According to insiders, Putin demanded recognition of Russian control over large swaths of occupied Ukrainian territory, a permanent halt to NATO expansion, and even the lifting of sanctions that have crippled Russia's economy. In other words, he wanted the United States to legitimize his invasion, weaken America's alliances, and reward Moscow for aggression. And here's the kicker. Trump, who had promised he alone could deliver peace, was suddenly boxed in. Agreeing to Putin's terms would look like surrender. Rejecting them would expose his easy fix claim as a complete sham. For the first time, Trump found himself in the very position he always accused others of being in, staring down Vladimir Putin and realizing he had no leverage, no plan, and no way out without looking weak. While Trump and Putin were behind closed doors, word of the stalled talks spread quickly through diplomatic channels, and the reaction from America's allies was nothing short of furious. Leaders in Europe, who have spent years standing shoulder to shoulder against Russian aggression, were stunned that Trump would even entertain such sweeping concessions. To them, it looked like he was preparing to sell out Ukraine and weaken NATO, all for the sake of saving face. One European diplomat reportedly described the meeting as a victory lap for Putin and a nightmare for the West. Another warned that if Trump bent to Moscow's demands, the entire security balance of Europe could unravel overnight. Instead of strengthening America's role on the world stage, Trump's meeting gave allies flashbacks of his first presidency, when his unpredictability and cozy language toward Putin left NATO scrambling to keep the alliance intact. By the time news broke of the tensions inside that room, the message was clear. Trump's peace plan wasn't just failing, it was backfiring, badly. Back home, the fallout was immediate. Democrats wasted no time calling Trump's meeting with Putin a dangerous display of weakness. But what really shocked observers was that the criticism wasn't just coming from the left. Several Republican lawmakers, normally quick to defend Trump, voiced concern that he had walked straight into Putin's trap. Some warned that America couldn't afford a commander-in-chief who bragged about easy solutions, but folded when confronted by a hostile foreign leader. Even conservative commentators, who have built their brands around defending Trump, started asking tough questions on live television. Was Trump ever serious about this 24-hour peace plan? Or was it all just a headline-grabbing stunt? For a man who thrives on projecting strength, the image of Trump leaving that room rattled, without a deal, without a win, was a political disaster. And the timing couldn't be worse, because the election clock is ticking, and his opponents are already using this meeting as proof that he's unfit to lead on the world stage. Within hours of the failed talks, Trump's team rushed into damage control mode. He went online, blasting out posts filled with his usual mix of bravado and blame. He claimed the meeting was tremendously successful, that he had shown Putin who's boss, and that the media was lying about what really happened. But here's the problem. No photos, no joint statements, no evidence of a breakthrough. Just Trump's words against the growing wave of leaks and reporting that painted a very different picture. Even his supporters could sense something was off. For years, Trump's strength has been his ability to control the narrative, to convince people that losing looks like winning. But this time, the spin didn't land. Why? Because the world saw it. Allies were alarmed, critics were emboldened, and even some of his usual defenders couldn't square the circle of Trump promising peace in 24 hours and walking away empty-handed. Instead of projecting strength, his spin only highlighted the weakness he was so desperate to hide. While Trump scrambled to spin the outcome, Putin wasted no time capitalizing on the chaos. Russian state media plastered headlines declaring that Trump had come begging and left empty-handed. To the Kremlin, this wasn't just about Ukraine. It was about showing the world that even a former U.S. president could be humbled when sitting across from Vladimir Putin. Diplomatic analysts say Putin walked away with exactly what he wanted: a public spectacle that divided America, rattled U.S. allies, and reinforced his image as the immovable strongman who could stare down the West and come out on top. Even without a signed agreement, the optics alone gave Russia a propaganda victory. And for a leader under pressure from sanctions, battlefield losses, and unrest at home, that kind of symbolic win is priceless. Meanwhile, Trump, who had promised to deliver peace in record time, ended up looking like the one who was outmaneuvered. And in geopolitics, appearances mattered just as much as reality. So here's where things stand. Trump promised the world peace in 24 hours. Instead, he gave Putin a platform, alarmed U.S. allies, and walked away weaker than when he started. For voters watching at home, the question is simple. If Trump can't handle one high-stakes meeting with Putin, how can he possibly handle the pressures of the presidency again? His critics say this was a moment of truth, a glimpse of a man who talks tough but folds under fire. His supporters are left trying to explain away what looks like one of the biggest foreign policy blunders of his political career. And as the headlines keep rolling in, one thing is crystal clear. This wasn't just a meeting gone wrong. It was a reminder that in the brutal arena of global politics, Donald Trump may not be the deal-maker he wants everyone to believe. So the world is left asking, if Trump can't even deliver on his biggest promise, what else is he bluffing about?